During the morning session, I told you that one of the major priorities or strategic thrusts for the park is that we're trying to animate the park. We're trying to bring it to life in order to achieve the strategic mission of supporting that transition from cool idea to business reality. So rather than me to pontificate for 45 minutes on how wonderful we are, what I've invited is some friends and partners to pontificate about how wonderful we are here at MIP. But before I do that, I actually want to say our purpose here is to help companies. Our purpose here is to help companies grow. And I want to draw attention to one of the companies here at the park, which is Q Reserve. So maybe the folks from Q Reserve stand up. So just to give you a sense, they've supported us here. Q Reserve helps us manage assets and resources throughout the park, reserving equipment, reserving rooms, all sorts of things. And so thank you for joining us today. And I hope if the rest of the parks, if you could say hi to them, I know they would be delighted. But now I'm going to talk about animating the park. So what I want to talk about is, and I made reference to it this morning, is how do we bring it to life? And so I brought three critical and partners to talk about their elements or their contribution to the innovation system. The first person I'd like to introduce is David Shinkariel from Changing Tide Ventures. Changing Tide Ventures is a brand new venture firm that's being set up here at the park. Somebody asked me today about, well, where do we get the capital to fuel the companies that are here at the park? So David's going to speak a little bit about Changing Tide Ventures and how they view their role, which is fueling the growth of companies. Another thing I spoke about today was the importance of amenities and building a place where people wanted to live, work, play, and innovate. And so I'd like to introduce Jason Casas from Equal Parts Hospitality. MIP has partnered with Equal Parts to develop the amenity space park-wide. And so he's going to talk about creating the space and the amenities. And then Lou Frapporti from Gowling's, managing partner at Gowling's, is from Gowling's, largest law firm in Canada, and we work with them regularly ongoing with their global reach. So he's going to talk about the global reach that can connect us with the rest of the world and help bring ideas to life. Because as we say here, our researchers are not trying to solve cancer for Hamilton, they're trying to solve cancer for the world. And so we necessarily have to be able to reach out on a global basis, and therefore having amazing partners such as Gowling that allows us to do that is very important. So with that said, each is going to say a few words, and then we'll open it up to questions. And if you don't have questions, I'll just stand here and make fun of them. All right? So with that, David, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here, and thanks for having me. My name's David Shinkariel. We are building an organization called Changing Tide here in the park. We're up on the 4th floor. And we're trying to take an innovative approach to financing and hands-on scaling companies. So I ask there for people who are like-minded to join with us, because building an ecosystem and a community of like-minded people and organizations is critical to solving big problems. And it's much like the research parks are doing, where they're helping to bring technology and business together and in a way that can create new innovative solutions. So what better place to locate an innovative financing company than in a park such as this? I guess the interesting thing that I'd love to hear about today when I'm here is how this is being done in other parks, because part of what we're trying to do is encourage others that think like this to cooperate and connect and work together. And if nothing else, I think the research parks are fantastic at doing that. We also think that a necessary input to solving these big problems is the technology that comes out of universities. And the more that we can connect those technologies with the capital and the companies that can scale them, the more they can make an impact on changing our future for the better. So that's my quick summary, and I don't know if you want to take questions at the end, or
we'll take questions at the end. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. So
Jason Casas here from Equal Parts Hospitality. We are a small, nimble startup, if you will, 5 years ago. But I don't know a busier hospitality company this year, any other than we are. Feeling slightly overwhelmed. This tiny little beer garden out here that we're building, it's amazing the smaller the project you do, the more insane you become about it. And I think it's amazing that it takes a village to raise a beer garden here at MIP. What we've done is we have teamed up with McMaster Innovation Park and tried to reimagine what is it that makes a park like this different than every other park in North America. And when I think about research parks, I've been to quite a few of them, I think of them really as malls. They're like gigantic outdoor malls often, but they're often missing the food court element that makes the mall cool and interesting, where people can collide and have beer and conversation and a bite to eat or a coffee. So I'm a firm believer in taking an innovation park of any description and adding food, beverage, people, and collisions to that park to make it shine and make it very human. Because ultimately, a company like ours, as an example, we need to raise capital. I need to run into Lou. I need to run into capital in the venture form. So ultimately, you know, it's that kind of collision that makes for a great park. So when Ty and I got together to talk about, you know, what could we do here at Innovation Park that's different on a smaller budget, I said, you know, you've got a big patch of grass out here. Why don't we build a beer garden? Everyone will see it. It'll make it feel like, hey, MIP is going to do something very different here over the next decade or two. And I think that we've landed in a good spot there. And I think that this park will slowly, over time, transition to a park that's worthy of those types of collisions.
Thank you, Jason. One of the things that we wanted to do through the amenities, we made reference, there was lots of discussion today about downtown and how we connect the park to downtown. Well, it's not just about colliding with other tenants in the park, it's about colliding and meeting with people from all over. So one of our metrics of success is, will a business person from downtown say, hey, let's go have lunch at the park? And by that very definition, draws attention and potentially meets up with folks. And so we're trying to build amenity space, not just based on the people here within this building, within the 52 acres, but building an amenity space that will attract people from all over the city and from all over the region to want to come and collide and collaborate with the folks here.
So I'm Lou Frapporti. I'm the managing partner of our Gowling Hamilton office. And I'm here as a result of a midlife crisis, really, and I'll explain that to you in a second. But I wanted to make a point to all of you about leadership and how decisive it can be in changing an ecosystem and environment. Ty is relatively new to this role and has been transformative in his dynamism, the energy that he's brought to the community and other partnerships as a way of catalyzing people to work together. And wherever you are, doing whatever you're doing, I can't say enough what kind of difference that makes in facilitating public-private partnerships that are key to the success of an ecosystem like that. So the midlife crisis, and maybe the best way to explain that to you, because I'm not here for the reasons you might think I'm here, is to tell you a joke. Right? What is the difference between a dead lawyer and a dead snake on the highway? There are skid marks in front of the snake. Right? Why does that resonate? You know, well, why do we have bad press? And we do, frankly. The legal profession is itself being disrupted right now. We're looking at technology as threatening our business model. Our competitors, the big four accounting firms and others, are eating market share from us, and we're all struggling with where to take the profession. And many of us who've been doing this a long time have gotten to a point in our careers where we're thinking the annual cycle of billing and hours, it's not, for some of us at least, incredibly motivating anymore. And when you have that, and you're part of a very large global firm, is there a different way to purpose that organization in a way that would add social impact, that would accelerate the community as a whole? And in thinking about that issue here, we were struck by an opportunity. And the opportunity was to reach out to the key institutions in the region, the city, McMaster, Mohawk College, and introduce the idea of a partnership that wasn't predicated at all on selling an hour's worth of legal services, but by taking a capacity that we had innately and leveraging it in a different way. And the vision, the idea was, could we take a global platform of, as you'll see, 1,500 or so lawyers around the world who themselves connect to 150,000 clients in every conceivable business vertical and find new ways to connect them to Hamilton and Hamilton to those relationships and opportunities around the world with the view to accelerating the success of the city in terms of promoting economic development, the university in commercializing technology, and generally creating the sort of social impact that David talks about in that video so eloquently. So we've been at this now a year and a half, and it's been an incredibly transformative experience for us. But the point is that there is enormous value in catalyzing and connecting people and being able to do that globally. And there is confidence on our part that people want to do business with people who share their values, who want to do good. And if there is a way of combining that resolve to do good, to positively impact the community with a positive business outcome, the business will follow. And so that's our story of our participation in partnership with the university and with these gentlemen here.
Thank you, Jason and David. A couple comments and maybe a couple questions. So one of the things I wanted to say is we're in Innovation Park. And one thing that I think is very important is to understand that innovation is not the sole domain of universities or colleges or researchers. You can be innovative in any domain. And so we're honored and delighted to have partners here at the park that are innovative in their own special way, in their own sector. And we made reference, Mike made reference earlier about how do you pick the right people to join the park and how do you find the right mix? One of them is that right culture. Are they innovative in their own domain? And so I think these folks are there. But the other thing is we made MIP as a business. We have a strategic mission, but we also have a mandate to be a profitable business, as I believe all three of you are. So maybe what I'd like to ask the question is, how do you see the ecosystem, either today or tomorrow? You can put the pressure on me. How do we support the growth or the profitability of your business? Anybody want to take a crack at that? Yeah, go for it.
So for us, I think one of the key things is that to make investments in the businesses that they're invested in successful, it takes a bunch of puzzle pieces to come together, right? And the company itself can work hard and try to bring those together, or the community that it's part of, the ecosystem that it's part of, can bring those pieces for the collaborative benefit of the ecosystem. And one of the things we're trying to champion is more entities, more organizations cooperating for that combined benefit by sharing each of their unique capabilities, networks, competencies, and access to resources.
And it's actually happened with you three people, hasn't it?
Absolutely, it's a great example today.
I didn't say it on the microphone, so you can say it. So I'm saying that as a result of that, these three collided, and they're actually doing business together now, right? So they're actually a living example of collisions and collaboration coming together in the form of new business.
So in terms of on a park scale, in terms of the ecosystem, I'm going to speak more to the physical domain of the park. I think it's really important. A lot of people think on a building by building basis. So perhaps park owners or developers think like, you know, building A is going to be tenanted by Gowlings and building B will be tenanted by Changing Tide Ventures and so on and so forth. But I think that everyone needs to have a very holistic look at their park, because it takes, like I said earlier, it takes a village to raise any one element of your park. And so understanding how those collisions happen and understanding how these three people get together to do business together is really key in defining your park spaces or your amenity spaces within your park. MIP has a gigantic sized opportunity with the building, sorry, has that been announced? Sorry. Yeah, it's been.
Yes.
Sorry, the building in the back, you know, hundreds of thousands of square feet, to really, really, really pull not just innovation into this park, but pull commerce into this park and pull all stages of innovation into this park. And I think that you have to look at the whole park holistically, is my point about being able to provide these collisions.
So what I will add to that is this. People tend to think about innovation as technology, but in reality, especially today, the more important innovation actually is centered on relationships and new ways of purposing relationships. The normal involvement of advisory firms, for example, at parks around the country is the sponsorship model, where we're asked to pay money to attend an event or have our brand promoted. And although that's the low-hanging fruit in our participation, in reality, getting us not to sell something, but to behave in a different way actually presents greater opportunity. And our investment here is about looking at relationships in a different way. How is it that we can take an ability that we have to connect all the people on the dais here and thousands of others in a way that speaks to their self-interest, rather than being focused primarily on simply how much can we build this client over time, and the creation of value, not revenue, but value, and understanding what is value in an interconnected world presents enormous business opportunity. But you need to look at business in a slightly different way.
Very good. So maybe I'll open it up to the floor. Does anybody have any questions? And I'm hoping at least one person does. No? Yes, Ryan.
Yeah, okay. So that's a great question. We came to this model with about 12 or 15 years of work doing it as a group of partners, mostly private individuals, some institutions, that come together on a deal-by-deal basis because they were like-minded, right? And we saw the opportunity to scale this. So those original partners, which are mostly high-net-worth individuals, entrepreneurs that have built and sold their own company for the most part, are the founders. But we're looking to scale this on a much bigger scale. So we're in the process actually of structuring it now to be a legal entity that others can participate in, that other institutions can participate in, that other economic development entities can participate in. So it's expanding.
Any other questions? Two questions for Lou. All right. Lou,
So
can you repeat the question?
the question was, how do my partners and colleagues around the world feel about this kind of approach? Well, it depends very much on who you ask and where, and often very much to the extent to which they have had an opportunity to benefit themselves from a door being opened or a new relationship being cultivated. And I'll say that it's a very dynamic process. We started down this road about 1.5 years ago with an idea, and at that point I began reaching out to the institutions in the area to talk about this idea, and then slowly over time to communicate the idea beyond our partnership group in Hamilton, but nationally and then globally. And that's incredibly hard work. At the surface, everybody loves the idea of connection and introduction. The reality of habituated behavior in which people act in a way that's consistent with advancing it is up in the air. And we're doing a lot of work around modeling. So when we find that somebody has facilitated a connection that has resulted in opportunity to a couple of client relationships or created a new client, we capture that story in this way and broadcast it globally so people can see how a new model of behavior can result in revenue and opportunity. And that's an everyday, discipline of doing this consistently and constantly and infecting the balance of a firm in an industry, let's face it, right? These patterns of behavior that have served the business for hundreds of years are now on the verge of being dissolved, and most don't have an answer for that except how quickly can I retire?
Second question.
Sorry, yes. Right, so David speaks of this issue in the video. One of the early insights that I had was the work of Michael Porter at Harvard. So he's a competition specialist, but he wrote a piece on what's called shared corporate value. It's a brilliant theory of a corporation, obviously having an obligation to its shareholders or owners to have a return on investment, but purposing its business function in a way that adds positive social value. If you can align, right, a return on investment and positive impact in the community, there is a significant brand differentiation benefit in doing that. It requires some thought, and what we're doing is an attempt at doing that. Now, we have to do it in a way which makes some business sense, and for us, it was promoting economic development in the region, attracting foreign capital, foreign businesses to Hamilton, and in the commercialization of technology. These are not are just donating money to causes. They are actually taking our business with the strategic purpose of creating broad social impact in an accelerated way, but leveraging the capacities that we have to do that. In every case, your private industry sponsors, everybody has an obligation to produce a positive return on the balance sheet or otherwise. It's understanding what that is and how to accelerate it that is the key to unlocking a lot of the activity that you're seeing here.
So Jason, I have a question for you. Some people visiting Hamilton may not know, but Hamilton's actually become quite an innovative city when it comes to food and beverages. How has that influenced your business, and how does that come into play with beer gardens and future amenities here?
Hamilton's port is becoming, I believe, the largest port in the country, or certainly in Ontario. We're receiving everything from mustard seed to flour. We're milling flour, Canada Bread, Maple Leaf Foods. There's a true food ecosystem developing in Hamilton now. There's agricultural activity. There's all sorts of activity locally. So how, in terms of that, impacts us? When we had a discussion recently, we said, you know, when you think about Innovation Park, or you think about innovation parks, and you think about the buckets of focus within those parks, I said to Ty, you know, I think that one of the focuses of this park, despite the obvious connection to McMaster, is Hamilton's a food town. We're into our food on a large scale level and on a restaurant level. So why aren't we doing beverage innovation, cannabis beverage innovation? Why aren't we doing all sorts of innovation around food and beverage? I recently saw a pizza robot from France that was unbelievable. It's like a hopped up vending machine that makes an absolutely delicious pizza. They've brought the engineers over here from France. So why can't we domicile some engineers here at the park and start working on pizza robotics, as an example? There's a new salad robot called Sally the Salad Robot that actually makes salads. You can watch this robot make a salad. It's remarkable. Those are the types of things that I think, beyond biotechnology or health sciences, that we should get into in Hamilton, because I think they're very relative to what we do. We have an industrial background and we have a food background in this town. So why not combine or collide the two into some research here at the park? So that's the direction I'd like to see the park go in as well.
Any other questions? I think we have time for one more. Okay, I don't see any. I'm going to thank you guys. I'm going to ask the Michelle and the collision crew. We've created some innovative gifts for you guys. So maybe if you could capture those. In the meantime, I want to tell you guys how much I appreciate you joining us this afternoon, and how much I appreciate you being partners in the park. And I think along the way, you know what? I think I've made some friends, and I want you to remember that as you open your gifts.
Good to know.
Well, yeah, here they come. So I got them all roses, or we got them all roses. Right? Maybe we'll let David.
Oh, I'm loving it.
We'll let yeah.
Thank you.
That's innovative. That's what that
Well, I think you should open yours, David.
I'm a little afraid.
Come on, you can do it.
These roses are made of what?
Well, why don't you check them out more closely, David? I'm sure you'll see what they're made of.
That's bacon?
Yes, they're bacon roses.
Yeah. So we got
Collective Arts beer, which is going to be what the beer garden is all about. So we're delighted to have them join us.
the most innovative roses I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's food innovation right there.
Bacon rose. You want to pick up that one there?
Some group of nuts that's making a comment on my ideas.
It's bacon. Bacon flavored, right? And a personalized message.
Yes. We'll be framing this.
Let me see. Oh, no.